Welcome to episode 5 of Off-World Off Topic. This is Off-World Empire's weekly show. I'm Mark Fox Powell, and that is Sam Paler.
Thank you, Mark.
Yep, and what we got this week? Well, actually, this week some cool stuff's been happening.
CES.
Yeah.
The yearly tech extravaganza.
Which is actually still running because it's Saturday right now when we're shooting this, and 8 hours ago... Well, Las Vegas is 8 hours in the past.
Yeah.
So
this is the last day,
This is the last day. So some other cool stuff might pop up today that we haven't come across. But
and we'll cover that. If there's anything particularly interesting, we'll do something with it next week. But I imagine most of the good stuff's they tend to front load the good content in most of these things. Most of the press conferences at the start.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't be surprised if we don't see anything hugely new or hugely significant.
Yeah. There might be a little bits and pieces, but nothing massive.
Yeah. So there's been a few main stories of the show.
Yeah,
we're going to cover two areas, really, aren't we?
Two main areas that we think is sort of the coolest, and sort of unsurprisingly, I guess the two sort of biggest areas of CES, which have been virtual reality and electric vehicles.
Yeah. They're the two big ones.
And all the kind of tie-in technologies to those.
Yeah.
Like, it kind of, both of them are kind of broad umbrellas, and there's a few other things that tie in.
Both of which are pretty cool.
They're both really cool.
Very going to be a big deal in the future.
For sure.
Yeah. So, but there's a couple of other things we saw that was decent around the show.
To
chat about before we go into the big ones.
Yeah. So drones are quite a big thing at CES.
Yep, they have been for the last few years.
Sure. And there's loads of, again, as they have been for a few years, there's loads of like autonomous drones, and that they're more and more frequent now. Like self-flying drones, like ones that follow you and film you and stuff like that for various applications, like extreme sports. It's very cool.
I want to get, even though we've seen those for the last few years, I've obviously never used one. Yeah. And like having a drone follow me would be pretty cool.
It would be cool.
So I want to try that.
And you can, for stuff like extreme sports, there's going to be tons of cool videos coming out of stuff like that.
I want to get one to so when I walk to work, I don't have to carry anything.
That'll be nice.
Just give it my rucksack or whatever.
Yeah, it just follows behind you.
And it just follows me.
That'll be cool. Yeah, I don't know if I can see that happening. It's almost like having a pet, like a pet pack animal drone.
Yeah, it's like tying stuff to your dog.
Yeah.
I imagine they can't lift a huge amount. You wouldn't really want to give it your bag with your expensive laptop in, and it just like catches some wind dodgy, crashes into a house and destroys itself and the laptop.
Maybe if you go shopping though.
What do you mean?
Like go shopping and then like give it your shopping to carry home. Like food.
Actually,
or whatever.
That's not bad. Because if you drop the beans, or whatever,
it'd be cool if it like sort of folded away and you wear it in like a bag on your back, and then you go shopping, and then outside the shop you just take it out and like chuck it into the air, and it just like automatically stabilizes and starts flying. Give it your shopping, and then off you go.
It goes home.
Yeah, it goes home. Yeah, yes.
Flies into your house, puts it in the fridge, puts everything in its right place.
Yes. Makes you a cup of tea.
It gives it to your house robot, which then like goes around the house and like distributes everything into the right places.
I mean, that would be cool.
And everything's like pre-scanned before. So at the shop, it scans in a bunch of things. They've got all like barcodes on them and things. Okay, you scan them in as you price them or whatever. That then uploads itself to the drone, which is in your bag that like communicates with the till, and then that drone then flies back, gives it to the house robot. It knows the different things which need to be put in the fridge, put in the freezer, put in the cupboards, put in the whatever, and it just does it all. And you come back and everything's sorted.
That would be awesome. But basically, you just want to cut out the middleman and not actually even have to go to the shop in the first place, right? Just get your drone to just do it.
That's a good point. I suppose, like things like, like delivery companies like Amazon or like Ocado and, like food delivery companies.
Yeah.
You could use to do that, I suppose.
Yeah,
that's obviously what would happen. You wouldn't go to the shop like I suggested. Although you might still want to go to pick certain things, whatever.
Yeah.
There's still reasons people would want to go to the shops in the future.
Oh yeah, for sure. I don't know if I mean
sure
what we've just been talking about, getting a drone to like carry a shopping bag. I'm not sure if that's going to be a thing.
No.
I mean, it would be kind of cool, but
no, it won't. No, it won't be a thing.
But if everyone's doing that, there's going to be a lot of drones flying around.
Yeah,
with bags of shopping. Which would be a bit weird.
It'd be highly entertaining though.
Yeah.
It'll keep your ice cream from melting. Stop that happening.
That's true.
That's a disaster when that happens.
I hate it.
Or you put the ice cream in the bag with something that's like a nice hot roast chicken. you
That's
bought
your
from the
standard
hot
shop.
counter. Oh no, what have I done?
It's like Lola ice cream and a full roast chicken. Sorted. Don't need anything else.
You can't go wrong with a freshly roast chicken. Anyway, let's talk about CES, not this.
Yes. But one of the other cool
Yeah.
drone things was, which I think is really cool, is that there's some Chinese company have developed like this drone that you can sit in, like a human rated quadcopter basically that you can ride in.
Yeah, that's got to be. You'd imagine that's got to be like designed in a very specific, like engineer out the risk kind of way, because helicopters are kind of dangerous, but like you see, when we saw in the week that skiing video. There's a skiing video where someone's skiing down a hill and like is it like must be a drone that's filming?
It must be a camera
and
drone.
it just falls out of the sky and very nearly like slices off the skier's head. Like it just smashes to pieces. Maybe like a meter away from where they've just were.
Yeah, I mean he's like slaloming, right, and like literally it hits the spot where he was, like literally like a quarter of a second before,
and just disintegrates into
hits the ground hard,
whirling bits of metal.
Yeah, so you don't want that.
No.
No,
you don't
while
want
you're
that
in it.
While you're in it.
Yeah. I mean that thing is quite big anyway, but it's not that big. It's quite for something that you can ride in and that flies. It's pretty small.
It's quite small.
It's not any bigger than like a car really. Maybe a bit wider because of the four like rotor arms.
It's kind of. I'm trying to think what it's comparable to in size. It's just like a little pod, basically, like a little cockpit.
It makes me think of like a little hatchback or something.
But the actual thing. Almost like a smart car.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
Sort of pod.
Yes.
Is it 2-seater or one?
I think it's just one.
Just one.
But they're kind of billing it as like maybe could be like a taxi. So you can imagine kind of ordering one, and it just turns up, and you climb in, and autonomously, obviously, that you don't control it. It just flies you to your destination. So you can imagine in like a small town. I mean, in a big town, but like I'm just thinking like where we live, getting cross city to work. Yeah. Just jump in and it just hops like, it just flies you to work. Maybe you could land like on the roof of a building or something like that. Instead of having to climb upstairs, you just go down. I mean, maybe buildings would be built with little landing pads for these things.
So where would that? Does that count as like as an aircraft? Because like drones have to. They're trying to work out rules, aren't they, at the moment?
Yeah.
Like where drones fly in the sky. Whether you have like a drone channel above buildings.
Yeah, I mean, Amazon came out with some like set of They sort of already suggested a set of guidelines for it. I think, for their drones, where you have like this kind of like band of altitude for unmanned for UAVs.
Yeah.
Which is lower than normal aircraft and stuff.
So does that count as a helicopter or a UAV?
Yeah, I don't know. I guess if there's a person in it, but they're not controlling it, possibly it's still a UAV.
No, but surely, just because they're not controlling it though, what does that matter?
Yeah, I don't know.
Surely it counts as like a manned. I don't know.
Because manned vehicles will be like the pilot will be in touch with like air traffic controllers and other aircraft and stuff, whereas you won't be doing that. Like it kind of negates the.
It's more like a car.
It's more like a car or like a you want to be able to just get in it.
Apologies for my cough again.
Yeah, Jesus Christ, get rid of it.
I can't.
You want to just be able to climb into this thing and like just read the news or like play a game and forget about it, and just it'll take you to where you want to go. You don't want to be like worrying about like talking to the air traffic controllers and shit.
No, exactly. You definitely don't want that. People aren't going to buy them if they have to organise their own like landing times and all this sort of crap. No, they want to get in, get out.
It has to function as a drone like as a UAV. Yeah, essentially. So I don't know. I mean, I intuitively I think it would be like classed as, or at least it would be flying the same airspace and altitude and occupy the same like channels as UAVs like Amazon drones and all the other various like shopping drones and shit or whatever you might have in the future.
Yeah. And this is like a quadcopter drone, isn't it? Or is it a hexacopter? I think it's a quad, isn't it?
I think it's a quadcopter. Yeah.
So it doesn't have any fixed wing.
No. Which
aspects.
Again, from the safety point of view, like if one of those rotors goes down, you're not gonna want to be in it.
No, but you'd have to have a very large fixed wing. Well,
it would just be a plane.
A much bigger aircraft for it to work fixed wing with a person in it. So it's probably not ever going to have fixed wing in that sense.
No.
It's just going to be too large.
No, I mean the
too
whole
difficult
point.
to land.
Yeah, it needs to be vertical takeoff, vertical landing. Like the whole the way it's designed now, it looks great. But again, like safety, you know, is it really going to be that safe enough to people to just rely on getting around?
Yeah.
Or is it just going to be a bit of a novelty thing?
Because there's that Amazon drone that's got the fixed, that's like a sort of hybrid between a quad or hexacopter and a fixed wing thing. Is sort of what I was thinking. So you have like a fixed wing aspect to it, where you have a forward backward kind of rotor that you rely on some of the aerofoil uplift as well as the engines. The other, you know, the normal rotary engines keeping it up, and then you can maybe like glide down, or if you lose one of the engines, one of the four rotors, you might be able to. It might be more stable going down or something if it's got an aerofoil in it.
Yeah, but I think it would end up just having a massive wingspan and like end up having to like land, like having to.
Yeah, that's what. You might not have like. You wouldn't have a huge wingspan, basically, is what I'm saying. You just have some aerofoil to help sum up.
Yeah, okay. All right, yeah.
Maybe.
I
think it's quite fast, they said, isn't it? It's got quite a high top speed, I seem to remember.
I bet it's fucking loud.
To be in?
Just generally. Because drones are loud as shit.
Yeah, they are loud.
Like little quadcopters and stuff. And that another thing that was at CES, that like spherical safety drone, which is just like, it just looks like a floating ball because the rotors are all inside. Really. It's quite. I mean, it has
you should draw like a cute face on it and be, you know, people be loving that.
They should make it look a bit more futuristic as well, because you know it's like a little floating ball.
It was a prototype though.
Exactly.
It's the size of a football. Yeah. But they should make it look. They should keep it to look like BB-8 or something.
Yeah, exactly. Make it look like a little droid.
Yeah.
But the only problem with it is it makes an absolute beast of a sound.
Yeah.
That video, there was a video that like I think it was a BBC like a reporter at CES, and she like touched it, and the whole thing just dropped out of the sky and hit the deck and broke. But she was having to shout over the sound of it, and that's only a little thing. And drones generally are loud, so that quadcopter, the big one for people to sit in, is going to be, I mean, it's going to be fucking loud. It's going to be screaming.
Yes, yeah.
So that's going to be quite annoying if there's loads of those things, not just the big ones, but just drones generally flying about cities.
Drone noise could be a big problem. So you'd have to design the drones to be quieter somehow. Whether you can like, because I wouldn't be surprised if the way that some of them are designed with kind of caged safety features, they end up like amplifying the noise of the propellers. So you could like
make it so that it directs the sound like up, instead of down. I don't know if that would work.
That's a cool idea though. So it's just really noisy in the sky.
Yeah. Birds like freaking out.
I think that would be a problem in the future. Like you've got to be careful how many of these things you have flying around, because tire noise and car noise has like a certain pitch. It's a bit lower. It's not quite maybe as kind of annoying as a high-pitched, whiny, sort of screamy drones that potentially are flying. They're probably not going to be flying past your window though, unless you live in a high-rise.
But I mean, they're going to be coming down to land occasionally. Yeah. So when that happens, imagine like one coming down to land, it's like right outside your window.
And say you live, and say you're like near the landing zone where like an entire street of people orders all their Amazon and grocery and everything's coming by drone. Yeah. You've just got these things like all day long. Yeah. That'd be really annoying.
Yeah, that would be. But I do wonder if, you know, before cars were like so common, people would hear one, like you go and see like a car driving or something and be like, Jesus Christ, it's so horrible sounding, so loud, like I can't imagine ever
that's true.
putting up with this noise. And now obviously you don't even think about it.
No.
So I do wonder if it's, you know, you would just get used to, it's just the sound of the city, and it's just like something that we get used to.
Just go into a city and it's just like an insect swarm. Like,
what they should do is all the drones should just be playing music really loud to drown out the sound of the rotors.
But there's nothing more annoying than music you don't like listening to being played to you.
Very loud.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, everywhere while you're walking around a city.
Yeah, no, that's...
No, maybe not.
No. I think that's a bad idea. What else was at CES apart from drones? So, other bits.
One cool thing is Google's Project Tango. Had a bit of showing. So they're partnered with Lenovo in a similar way to their like Nexus smartphone range.
Yeah. They're
like partnering with Lenovo to create essentially like a phablet smartphone-y type thing. A phablet. I hate that word.
Yeah.
Sounds a bit like giblet. Yeah. So but the point of it, so Project Tango obviously is this this camera system that Google have designed to map 3D space, physical space, into digital form, which is, I mean, something that's been done for a long time with stuff like LiDAR, which is like a laser-based like 3D mapping instrument, big and clunky and expensive. Whereas this is like a totally new approach to it. I mean, I think it's just like there's like a stereoscopic camera and a depth sensing camera, and the whole thing's built out of image analysis essentially.
There's two standard cameras, which I think would probably act in sync to get a stereo image, and a depth sensing camera.
Yeah.
On this, it's a prototype, isn't it? It's not actually.
Yeah, well, they had something when they did a demo of it. I mean, they haven't actually released like details, I don't think, of a full like consumer ready phone. But I reckon that's going to be this year.
Well, no, there is one, isn't there?
I don't know, but they haven't said, it's not like they haven't released details of this is the phone and this is how big it is, this is how much it's going to cost. They said $500, I think.
I thought there was a picture of it with its like two cameras.
That was the one that they demoed at CES.
Oh, sorry.
Which is like a prototype, and things like the screen size and exactly how big it's going to be, and it's not all nailed down. But they do have like a working phone essentially that does all this stuff.
So tell us exactly what does Project Tango do exactly.
What's its aim?
For people who don't know,
building a digital representation of like the physical environment, like spatial dimensions and movement and stuff like that, objects, rendering that into a digital like graphics environment that then you can things like, so you can like measure distances, and like say you want to do like a DIY or something, you could use your phone to like measure up dimensions of the room and stuff like that.
So you can create like a 3D image,
like
a
geometric
image, as if you were like creating a video game environment almost, just by like filming the room.
So like doing like a panoramic or like photosphere thing with this Project Tango won't just give you like a flat image that's stitched together. It will give you like measured depths and sizes of things, and
so
where
you
they
literally
place
have
objects.
a 3D digital image of your room. Which, like you say, had been previously limited to using things like LiDAR and stuff, which was really expensive.
I mean, I do wonder if, because LiDAR's used like in loads of stuff, like geology, like and film sets, like rendering stuff for CGI and film sets, and like all kinds of shit. And I wonder if this is like actually going to replace that, whether it's actually better and more accurate, and like
it's certainly cheaper.
It's way cheaper.
You can do it on a £500 smartphone. That's ludicrously cheap. So there's tons of applications that could be used for. Not just so you can use it for, like you're saying, DIY phones and stuff. But I mean, so I think you think about things like scanning a tunnel, or
like going into like a disaster zone.
Like disaster zone.
In fact, like any way in which a machine, like a robot or a drone or something, or even an autonomous car, senses its environment. This has the potential to like fundamentally change that. And move it forward.
So like house robots, almost anything, and like disaster robots, like you said, like those big dog robots from Boston
those
Dynamics,
things are awesome.
that sort of use in the army, could sense 3D environments or scan 3D environments. It's going to be super useful for things like VR, which I guess we'll talk about next / now.
Could just
Well, so if you in VR, it's going to be super important to bring in images scanned in 3D and have them actually as a virtual object.
So to kind of like mesh
to
like the virtual world and the real world.
Exactly.
Which is something that, for example, HTC are now starting to do a bit, but this is like stepping a massive like step forward from what they're doing. And we'll talk about HTC in just a minute. But,
but you could potentially, so if you wanted to have like a 3D, say like a VR meeting with people at work, you could scan everyone in with the Project Tango, or have like a Tango system that sits in the office. Everyone puts on VR headsets, and you just have like a meeting, and everyone's on like different corners of the world.
And you could like walk around the other side of people, and like they're actually there and stuff. That would be cool.
So there's loads of applications for it.
Slap your boss in the face.
Without actually
world.
doing it. Virtual slap.
Although you still get fired for that shit.
You probably would. So I think that Project Tango is going to be really, really, really important for loads of things. It does depend slightly on how good it is. If it's not great, if it's quite inaccurate, or it drains the battery is probably okay, because you could. That will be improved in time anyway. But if it is as sensitive as things like LiDAR, it could potentially change like huge numbers of industries.
Like revolutionise a lot of things actually.
Well, do you think there's anything that would be particularly useful? We said about DIY for just the consumer. Say like if you're buying a phone. Okay, that phone's dead. You need a new phone. Would you buy a Project Tango phone? Like, what uses do you think you would have for it? Just around the house now in your daily life?
I can't really think of, because I don't. I don't do. I mean, I'm renting it. I don't do DIY or anything like that.
No.
Why would I want to like map?
Apart from
the fact that it's cool.
Yeah.
What can I think of that I would do with it? I'm not really much actually. I don't really feel like I have a need for it in my life at the moment.
I'm trying to think if I would apart from for like VR.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. Once it's like meshed in with VR applications, that's going to be cool.
Yeah.
But
maybe I'd buy it just on the basis that might be useful for that,
Yeah.
and that would be enough to like persuade me to. Because if it's about the same price as, you might find all phones have it at some point.
yeah.
Actually.
Yeah. True. Yeah.
Well, that's if you know the Dark Knight, the film.
Yeah.
You know the bit.
Oh, yeah.
Spoilers. Where he scans every hacks into everything.
Yeah. Everyone's seen this film, so it's fine.
Yeah, no, of course. And basically builds 3D maps
Yeah.
out of sonar pings kind of all over for the bat vision thing. You could almost do that, hack into the system where you're using everyone's phones to build a 3D model of the entire world.
That's insane.
Inside
that's
buildings.
crazy. Having all of the data from everybody's Project Tango system, or even just thousands of people. Imagine a whole network of Project Tango systems throughout a whole city that are all networked together, and you can use that to build up a 3D map of the entire city, including the interiors of buildings and everything.
That's mental.
That's mental and awesome.
And you could people could make that without hacking in or stuff. You could
Yeah.
opt to make that data public. And so you may end up just scanning the whole world in the sense that people are just allowing it to happen.
Yeah,
just
gradually you get more and more coverage. And it would be a bit like Street View, but an order of magnitude more detailed and more open. To be the entire world rendered into a 3D,
which would be super useful for so many situations with trying to automate things, trying to get household robots, these types of things.
Yeah, and smart cities and stuff in the future,
Yeah.
Where the cities are controlled by AI systems that manage traffic and deliveries and all that kind of stuff, and it's all a 3D rendering of the entire city would be super useful for that.
Yeah. That's cool. Just all based
cool.
on lightweight 3D mapping technology.
Yeah. This is potentially hugely revolutionary, actually.
Yeah.
Project Tango.
Yeah, it is. So, HTC Vive and Oculus and
VR generally.
Was PlayStation VR there?
Yeah. There must have been. I actually haven't heard any news about PlayStation VR.
There was some news there was some story this week on it, which we'll talk about in a bit. But basically, VR. Big deal.
Big deal, CES. Unsurprisingly, probably the biggest thing at the whole show.
Yeah, 2016 is potentially the year of VR.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that because I'm not... anyway.
Okay, yeah, we'll get to that.
And it coincides also with the pre-orders opening for the Oculus Rift.
Badass.
Which
happened on Wednesday, was it?
Yeah, Wednesday evening here.
Which was bittersweet for you.
Yeah, I mean, we went through the... So I sat there waiting for this pre-order for a while. I had an alarm set on my phone at work.
Nice.
As you heard probably go off.
Yeah.
And
I was there for the last minute or so of countdown.
Watching the last countdown. It was counting down, 10, 9, 8. Got to the end. The website obviously froze straight away.
Yeah.
And then I was sure, have I ordered it, have I not ordered it? Eventually got through. Price. I thought it was going to be about £350 British pounds or £400.
I think weren't you saying that before that your sort of limit was 400 or something, or you could stretch maybe just over 400, but 400 was pushing it.
Yeah.
And it wasn't going to be that much. It probably wasn't going to be that much. Probably as much as the DK2, the latest.
Well, that's what I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be
similar to that.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be the the pound equivalent of the DK2. So £350 basically instead of $350, and it was $600.
Savage.
Which is a lot. And then when I actually put the order in and it realised it was in the UK, that went up to 500 British pounds, which is $700 or something
about that,
$800.
Fucking steep.
Yeah, really expensive. And then added £30 on for delivery, so £530. Which is
it's not
a lot.
It's that really annoying amount, isn't it? Because it's not completely out of the ballpark, grand, $2,000, $1,000 or whatever. It's fuck that, that's insane. Or it's not super cheap, give me that now, I want it. It's just enough to be considering it, and sort of have that like inner debate, like conflict about whether should I do it, should I not do it, and then you ended up doing it.
I did. I couldn't help myself.
Gotta be done.
I've put the pre-order in, and I don't have to pay for it until it actually ships. So I'll reassess the financial situation when we actually get to it being delivered.
Yeah.
So I haven't really shot myself in the foot yet.
But
I've got that gun. The gun is loaded and pointing at my head.
Yeah.
Instead of my foot.
And that trigger's going to be pulled in.
It probably is, yeah.
Like 3 months.
So I've actually, and so my delivery date is April.
Nice. That's early, considering.
Well, yeah.
Like now, the pre-orders going in now are like shipping in like July and shit, right?
Yeah.
And possibly even August by this point.
I wonder if the website crashes were worse here, just because we're a bit further away from, I presume, the Oculus.
Like servers.
They host their servers in the US probably.
Yeah, probably. I don't know.
So the chances are maybe because I was like there hammering refresh, trying to get my details in as quickly as possible, might even be one of the first few thousand to get it here in the UK.
Yeah. Possibly.
And we can definitely do like a reaction video and stuff because you haven't actually tried it out.
Nope. My only little taste of VR has been that like Google Cardboard thing.
Yeah.
It's just your phone stuck in like a little cardboard headset.
Yeah.
Which was wicked. I mean, I loved it, but it's not. I mean, it's a totally different league, the Oculus.
It feels, I've used we've talked about on a previous episode. I've used the DK2, and it's totally different to a cardboard, and the consumer version is supposed to be way better.
And it comes with Vive Pre, doesn't it? The pre-order. Nice.
Yeah, which is going to be one of the best, probably like early games for it.
Badass.
Because a space game is going to be so.
Oh my god!
The scale.
I can't even. I want to play a space game so badly.
Like Vive Pre is kind of going to be like an arcadey sort of dog fighting game.
Wicked.
Which is cool. But I'm also going to get Elite Dangerous probably.
Oh yes.
For that like giant scale space sim thing.
Yeah. And when's Star Citizen out? Is that out?
Not this year, probably. It's definitely not out this year. It's a massive game now. Yeah. It's going to take a while to make.
The scale
might be out 2017, maybe 2018.
The size of like the galaxy or the map of it isn't anywhere near the size of like Elite Dangerous, is it?
I actually don't quite know how they're doing that. They are doing borderline planetary scale stuff.
No, sorry, I don't mean the scale. The scale's all, I think, pretty much 1-to-1 in Star Citizen. But I mean the size of them, like the number of planets, the number of stars, all that kind of stuff. I think Elite Dangerous is like way bigger.
Well, Elite Dangerous is the entire Milky Way simulated.
Yeah.
In a 1-to-1 scale.
Which is insane.
Yeah, which is insane. Obviously a lot, that's procedurally generated, but Star Citizen, no, I think it's going to have like regions that it's more like handcrafted. I think Star Citizen, which has its benefits and its drawbacks. Yeah. So those 3 games are going to be awesome in VR.
I mean, I just want to try some of like just the demos. I just want to be in a virtual world and just experience that sense of presence and all that shit. Like, that's what I want. Like, and whatever gives me that.
I'm going to try and find the like perfect demo. I'm going to try like a bunch of different things and try and work out like what's the one that's really going to get people like excited when they first bet on, what like really blow you away. So yeah, that's coming. Consider that on its way.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've actually pre-ordered the Oculus Rift, but at CES the Oculus Rift was there.
Yeah,
it was nothing new.
No, nothing announced really. It was just people trying out, I guess, the consumer version.
Yeah, they were playing like a kind of like first-person shooting game where they like go on a train and you have the Oculus controllers and like shoot stuff, and apparently it's pretty fun.
That's cool.
And people, people are saying it's really amazing, etc.
Yeah.
But the Vive, HTC and Steam came with their updated prototype model, the Vive Pre, which is seemingly a slightly updated version of the previous prototype that they've been bringing.
Yeah.
In terms of they've updated the look of it, they've made it lighter. The straps are slightly changed. I think the screens are the same and everything. They've changed the optics slightly, and they've updated the controllers and the way they handle. But the most significant thing, which they kept saying they're bringing a big technological breakthrough,
and it's the reason they pushed back their like release date for the consumer version and everything as well.
That's what they said.
They pushed it back by several months because of this.
Yeah.
Big announcement.
That's what they said.
Yeah.
Which is just a camera basically,
front-facing camera.
A front-facing camera. Is it really a big technological breakthrough? I know that it's mostly software that's the breakthrough, probably.
Yeah,
the camera itself probably isn't. But is the software thing really a breakthrough? I mean, it's basically an updated version of the Chaperone system.
Yeah.
So with the Vive, what people seem to be saying is that it's really good for like room scale VR. So you can put these two sensors down in a room, and you have like a 5 meter by 5 meter cube in which you can explore and walk around in. If you get to the edge of that, you get like a virtual wall that comes
okay.
But with the front facing camera on the Vive now, you can also like map in real objects, so not actually create like a 3D kind of model of them that's then usable in VR in the same way that you might be able to do a Project Tango, but rather it just brings in like a monochrome image, which is still seemingly in 3D. You're able to see stuff basically around you.
I presume it almost just overlays the image of the camera on what you see in the virtual world in a kind of like black and white, like sort of ghost kind of, it's sort of there but not there kind of sense.
And so you can, for example, if someone put a chair down in your 3D in your cube in which you're walking around in, you'd be able to like look at that and sit down on it, which is cool.
I mean, yeah, it's cool. I actually think that these kind of things are like that is almost like necessary. Like it's a necessary thing for VR, especially gaming applications, because you can imagine like if you're in a room with people in it and there's like food, like a table with drinks or whatever on it, like when you play a game like split screen games with loads of people in the room. You occasionally like pass the controllers and drink stuff, eat stuff, like chat, talk, move around, and to be able to like sort of be still in the room by pressing a button and suddenly you can see the table and you know where your drinks are and like,
it's far less painful than taking the thing on and off, which would be annoying. Exactly,
and you'd probably just get really in the habit of doing that every now and again to like do stuff. I think that's cool. I think that's necessary.
Yeah.
And I think you start seeing that kind of thing being built into like other VR headsets.
Yeah, I wonder if Oculus will. They'll probably build that sort of thing into their second consumer version.
Yeah.
But they might even come out with a like a clip-on peripheral that you can buy for people who bought the first consumer version. That essentially just does the same thing.
So yeah, I think it's necessary. I think it's cool, but I don't think it's like anywhere near as big a deal as they sort of build it to be.
Not really, no. Not really. So in terms of the differences then between the Vive and the Oculus, lots of people are going to be trying to decide which one to go for.
Yeah.
We'll probably also include in that the PlayStation VR as well.
Yeah.
Now, we don't know the price. We only know the price of the Oculus,
which was a lot more than what people were expecting.
And the HTC is probably going to be more expensive, or at least they've always said that it's kind of gonna be a high end, like expensive device. I'm not sure whether they considered $600 to be that, and that's what they've always been saying. And Oculus was just accidentally or on purpose or whatever you think,
just a bit of a surprise. Like their price when it came out.
And actually, it won't be that difference in price to the Oculus.
Yeah.
But a lot of people are going to be trying to decide between these 3 different headsets, which one they should go for. And obviously, we haven't tried them out yet.
No.
But after reading and watching a lot of videos and getting people's impressions, I think it depends on what you want them for.
Right.
So the Oculus is going to be possibly better if you're going to want to just sort of sit in front of your desk and do, for example, like Star System and these kinds of things. And that's just because it seems like, from what most people say, the headset is just slightly more refined than the Vive.
Right. By refined, what do you mean? Like,
as in, so the Vive still has a problem with the screen, a slight problem with the screen door effect. So the screen door effect's like where you can see the pixels of the screen.
Shit. Yeah. So you're like looking through almost like a mesh at like.
Yeah.
Behind.
Whereas the Oculus, they've got some clever optical diffuser technology thing that blurs that out, so you can't really see it. And I think the headset's just slightly lighter and slightly more comfortable with the Oculus. I've also heard that the Oculus controllers are slightly better for making it feel like your hands are in VR than the Vive ones. So the Vive ones are kind of like a trigger and a touchpad, whereas the Oculus ones are designed so that when you pinch,
it's got like buttons like weirdly on it.
It feels, when you pinch with the controller, it feels like you're doing that in VR.
Yeah.
So picking stuff up feels more natural. Yeah. So I think if you're sat down in front of your computer, it might be that the Oculus is the one to go for. Some people did say, I noticed, that they thought potentially the field of view was smaller in the Oculus, slightly narrower.
Are you aware of that then? Can you actually see the edges of the field of view?
You can. You forget about it really quickly.
Right. I didn't know that.
No,
that's actually slightly disappointing. I want to be totally immersed in it.
Yeah, it's just not possible at the moment.
Yeah. And it's 100 degrees, isn't it, the Oculus?
110, apparently.
110, I mean, that's pretty good.
Well, I read some stuff, and they were listing on, I think it was like Tech Radar or something, they were listing the Oculus and the HTC Vive having the same field of view. So I can't quite work out actually which one has, if there is any truth in this stuff.
But people have been saying
people's perceptions of things and whatever. I don't know.
Weird.
and the demos they were using.
Yeah.
But they certainly seem to suggest that the Vive maybe had a slightly larger field of view.
Yeah.
They've both got what looks like the same panels, they're the same resolution. They're probably the same, size and everything. Basically, they're probably exactly the same.
They're very similar, yeah.
Like specifically made for VR OLED panels.
Yeah.
Have a 90 hertz refresh rate. And they're low persistent screens. And there's two of them in both of those two, in the Oculus and the Vive. They both have two screens, one for each eye.
Cool.
So yeah, but the field of view thing, I agree with you. I sort of thought when before I knew much about it and tried it, that it was going to be. Well, after reading about it, I knew that before I actually tried it, that it wasn't like just totally, like you can't have no block of your peripheral vision. You do have a block, but it's like that. Like you like
a tiny bit. And I guess because you're wearing a headset, you're aware that you've got something over your eyes anyway. So like, I mean, I've got glasses on right now.
They're blocking. That's blocking some of your peripheral vision.
Like my vision is. I mean, I've got peripheral vision out the side of it, but like I am aware that I have like a big black ring around my.
But it doesn't.
Side. I don't notice it.
No.
I can't even think about it.
Exactly.
It doesn't detract from my like experience of the world.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's probably fine.
It's not that dissimilar in VR. As soon as you put it on, and then like you just like.
Yeah.
You don't really kind of notice. The price of the Vive, if it's more expensive, could be interesting if it's like £800 or something, $800, $700, something like even $1,000, because I mean that's really pushing it for consumers.
Yeah. I mean, it's got to be, if it's that much, it's got to be really delivering something the Oculus isn't.
Yeah. And well, it is what it is. So the Oculus, like I said, is good for sitting in front of the computer.
Yeah.
But the Vive Pre is what you want for room scale stuff. So if you want to have if you've got space to have a room in which you're going to put your laser sensors around the room, two of them, create your cube. If you want to kind of move around and walk around in VR, pick things up, kind of have that kind of more, I suppose probably a slightly more immersive experience, I'd imagine. Like there's things that you can do in it, basically, that the Oculus sensors can do, but weren't specifically designed to do.
Yeah.
For example, like the room scale stuff. So actually, my mate has actually, from my flatmate has ordered an Oculus as well.
Yeah.
So we're gonna have two of them in my house.
That's correct. You can be probably one of the first households in the UK to have like multiple Oculus Rifts.
Yeah. And we're going to try and get the two sensors and jack them into basically stick them in a room.
Badass.
And make like a room scale version. But we won't have the mapping that you get with the HTC.
Sure. So the positioning done with the Oculus is done purely with one camera that's like sort of doing motion capture.
It's like a wide angle camera.
On these infrared like dots that are all over
on the controllers and on the headset on the front and
back. But the HTC takes that one step further and actually gives you like 2 points of reference so that it can map you more accurately. Or is it like fundamentally different in the way that it does it?
It's fundamentally different in the way it does it, I think.
Yeah.
So the Oculus thing, I think, is literally just a camera, like a normal camera that's got a very high speed, kind of like specifically designed.
But if you turn 180 degrees around, so that the headset is essentially shielded from the camera.
Yeah, but it's got stuff on the back of the Oculus, so they know
sorting me out.
That's fine. No, it won't lose tracking.
Right.
It's just that the HTC one basically is designed for a larger space. It sprays lasers everywhere instead of having a camera that just films.
Yeah.
So it's just better.
It's better for like exploring like a larger space, like a 3D kind of environment.
So if you've got the space and that's the thing you want from VR.
Yeah.
Although I'm skeptical there's going to be many games that really take advantage of that feature to start with. I feel like most of them are going to be seated experiences, like driving, flying games, these kind of space games.
Because it's much harder. Yeah, it's much harder to like something like an FPS. Is much harder to do in VR convincingly. And if you're going to keep running into the walls if you're trying to do that like full scale.
I don't really know how that would. I mean, there's a really cool game called Job Simulator where you sit at a desk, like a virtual desk, and you've got to like put CDs in and do all this kind of crazy stuff. And like surgery simulators and those kind of things would be cool if you could get up and walk around things. I can see those being quite good with the Vive.
Yeah.
But I ended up going for the Oculus because I feel like, to start with, it's going to be a while until the really, really great experiences are going to be like room scale experiences. I also don't really have the space to do that in my phone.
I mean, I think a lot of people probably won't. You need quite a big room, I guess.
Yeah, exactly.
Clear some space. You need a dedicated VR room is what you want.
Yeah. That's going to happen at some point.
Oh yeah. I remember when I was a kid imagining that. Like playing like, I used to have a Sega Master System, old school console.
Yeah.
And playing like Sonic. I remember thinking then, like, in the future we're going to be doing this. Like, we're going to be in the game.
Yeah.
Like in a room that's dedicated for
Yeah,
it. I want that in my house when I'm older as well.
Yeah. And now it's actually happening. Yeah, I always thought it'd be like something you'd plug into your brain, basically.
Yeah.
You know,
Well,
like in a
that's
sort
the
of like
next step.
super futuristic way.
Like the Matrix, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah. And so the final option for everyone would be the PlayStation VR.
Yeah.
Now we know a bit less about that.
Yes, especially me.
Do we know less about that? We don't know how much it's going to cost, but the problem with the PlayStation VR is that there was a story this week that it may have to have its own onboard processor, because the PlayStation 4, in comparison to a gaming PC, is a bit of a shit piece of hardware in comparison. It's nowhere near as powerful, and you need so much processing power for VR. Not only do you have to, so the resolution of these headsets is about, I can't remember, it's like 2160 by 1, so it's over 1080p. It's higher than 1080p
for each screen.
No.
In total.
But it has to render those images. So most games on the PlayStation 4, for example, run at 30 frames a second. It needs to run them at 90 frames a second.
Yep. And
not only that, but things like anti-aliasing, so the jaggedies you get in video games look like fucking horrible in VR. So what I think they're actually doing is rendering them a much higher resolution, and then like rendering down again and correcting to put it on these headsets. So actually they're running at a much higher resolution anyway than even the headsets are, and they have to do that at 90 frames a second.
Jesus.
To keep it. So there's a huge amount of stress put on the computing side. So and the PlayStation 4 can't really handle that. It will do for very basic experiences. But if you want games like Eve Valkyrie in its like full glory, it's probably not going to be able to do it. So there might have to be some type of onboard processing they can do, which is going to make the headset itself a lot more expensive.
Yeah.
Whether it will be more expensive than the Oculus, I don't know, and that's just because it has I don't think it has two screens. Maybe it does have two screens. The PlayStation VR, I'm not sure, but it definitely has a lower resolution. It's only a 1080p resolution. Yeah. So what I'm imagining is the PlayStation VR, you won't have to spend so much on getting a PC. A gaming PC to get the power to run VR, but you may have to fork out a similar amount for the headset. But overall, it will be cheaper because a lot of gamers already have PlayStation 4s. So we'll see. I think of the PC ones, we sort of know which ones people. You just need to decide what you're going to do with it, and then you'll be able to choose which of the two you want. If you want the full room, the Vive. If you want
full room and the front-facing camera, like 3D objects in the virtual world aspect, which possibly will come for the Oculus anyway fairly soon, but we don't know that for sure.
No,
you definitely will be getting that up front with the HTC Vive.
Yeah. But and then obviously if you own a PS4 and you don't have a gaming PC, then if you really want a VR experience and don't want to fork out for one of those, then PlayStation VR is basically your only option. We'll see how much that costs. That's going to be very interesting, and I'm very, very interested to see how many headsets they sell at Oculus, how many pre-orders go through at this price point, because I know a lot of people who were considering it and were and just said it's just too expensive. I also know some people who said it's too expensive and then a day later bought it anyway.
Well, like you.
I bought it immediately.
Sure.
So I guess we'll find out. We'll sort of see how that pans out. I'm going for the Oculus for now.
Yeah.
I'll probably get another one in 3 or 3 years.
So with the Oculus now on pre-orders and the HTC Vive probably going onto pre-orders in a few months.
Yes, in February, I think. It
does seem like, as we sort of said in our previous video, that 2016 is kind of the year that VR kicks off. But then you mentioned earlier that you think that might not be the case. Like, what are you talking about? So is 2016 the year of VR?
The only reason I think it's just that it's the year of VR starting to be released as a proper consumer product. Sure, yes. But it's not. I don't think it's going to be the year that VR really takes off. That a VR headset sells a million units. Well, maybe it will. Maybe they will in total this year, just because the price is too high. Most people can't or don't want to fork out that much money for a gaming PC and a headset. It's going to be mostly the relatively hardcore kind of like audience that's going to invest in that. I can't see I can't see the general consumer paying that kind of money.
Yeah.
And then you need to buy a gaming PC, and some people, it's just kind of a different. It depends how much the PlayStation VR costs. If the PlayStation VR is, it's never going to be $200.
No.
Say it's $300.
Which is probably still too low.
Which is too low, probably.
But let's say it is.
Which is $50 cheaper than a PlayStation 4 is on its own.
Yeah.
Could I see 1 million of them being sold? Maybe. But I only mean like total VR headsets. Maybe there'll be 1 million sold this year, but it's not going to be the year where you start seeing people like in every room.
Yeah, sure.
It's they're going to have to get cheaper.
Yeah.
It's like the iPhones. They were really expensive to start with, and they took a while before everyone had a smartphone. I don't necessarily think everyone it's not going to get to the numbers of smartphones with VR headsets really, but I definitely.
So this is the year of like the first wave of the early adopters and the high end stuff coming out, showing what can be done, and then possibly next year or the year after when we start seeing like the cheaper stuff. Like,
I think it would be
exploiting the computing
2018
power,
before it's really kind of settling in. Although people make the argument that it's just a gimmick and that actually we'll get bored of the experiences. It won't be better than gaming on normal monitors, etc. I don't buy that.
I mean, I haven't tried it, but
yeah, I don't think it's that at all.
There's so many applications that are beyond just gaming.
Yes,
I think it's going to be like world changing eventually.
You talk to anyone who's worn one of these things, and it's almost unanimously, holy shit, this is going to be massive.
Yeah.
And of course that early wave of adopters that like me buying it for a stupid price that I shouldn't do, are going to be telling everyone to come over and like use it, try it out. There's going to be loads of videos of people reacting to it on YouTube. People are going to start, and people already do know and have heard about it who aren't the people who would be buying it as an early adopter. But when people get it in their hands, you cannot describe what it's like. Just you have to experience it. And the more they get out there, the easier it's going to be to sell. Because when people put these things on, they're sold very, very quickly. And once the price comes down and they're affordable, there's going to be very little reason why most people are going to. Do you think it's still a hurdle that people have to wear something, that it's kind of, it is a bit of, obviously it's seen as like a geeky thing to sit in your room or sit in a lounge with your mate and just like wear a headset and kind of like be in a virtual world. Like
that will put some people off for sure.
It will,
it definitely will. But I mean, there's no other way of doing it for like probably for many decades. So I mean, the devices themselves probably get smaller and lighter as time goes on. But until we work out how to like feed data directly into your like optic nerve or whatever.
Well, maybe
cool. maybe that technology's closer
into your eye.
Yeah, but you still have to wear something for that.
Yeah, but it might just be like a pair of glasses rather than which would be. But you'd still have to wear something. I know. For example, I was speaking to a friend who was put off by the idea that he didn't like basically the idea of just sitting in his room and just kind of being like kind of taken out of the world. He was just like, is that too far? He thought maybe it was too far. I mean, I don't care about that.
Fuck that.
As soon as I used it, I was like, no, I'm getting one of these straight away.
But being taken out of the world is kind of like part of
That's the point. That's what I want.
Yeah, exactly.
That's exactly what I want out of it.
So the other big thing at CES besides VR, like the big deal thing, was sort of electric cars. So there's a few companies there.
People following the line of Tesla. Which is nice to see. It's always nice to see.
I think they like that as well.
Oh, Tesla love it. That's the only reason they exist.
Yes.
That is the only reason they exist. That's
their
reason
expressed goal. That's like their publicly expressed company goal is to enable like the movement away from fossil fuel powered transport into like a sustainable future.
And they seem to be succeeding.
Yeah.
So there was the Faraday Future electric car. What do you think of the way it looks?
A bit lame.
Yeah,
I'm not into it at all.
But it's a concept.
It's a concept car. So it's meant to be kind of silly looking. It looks a bit like, like a Batmobile. Everyone's been saying it does look a bit like the Batmobile. It's got like that stupid like wafer thing. It looks like a fucking dessert.
That plastic thing
stuck in the back of it.
What
the hell is that?
That looks like shit. Like,
it looks like shit. Get rid of that. Without that, it would look a bit better. But it's still not. I mean, I'm not that into it.
I understand that you make a concept car that's flashy and makes it stand out, is memorable, and is too extreme to be produced en masse. But like, don't make it look like shit.
No.
Anyway,
Obviously, they don't think it looks like shit. They think it looks cool.
no, yeah.
So Faraday Future themselves, a company, in my mind, is sort of like a bit like the Blue Origin is of so Blue Origin to SpaceX is kind of like Faraday Future to Tesla in a way.
Okay.
So again, they're this secretive company that people don't really know all that much about. Have got a lot of money backing them. Nobody really. I mean, they've always been saying that they bought up loads of factory space and they're building factories and they've got loads of employees. They're only a few years old.
Yeah.
Nobody really knows what they're doing apart from building cars. And now obviously they've unveiled this is their first like big. Okay, here's what we're doing.
Yeah.
Sort of venture into like public domain now.
Yes.
So in a way, like it just sort of reminds me like SpaceX have Blue Origin sort of doing the similar kind of thing.
Yes.
And Tesla got Faraday Future. Faraday Future is a bit of a rip-off of the name of Tesla, I think. It's like Tesla, Faraday. You're going to start seeing companies called like Edison and like, I don't know, other shit like that.
Yeah, I suppose that often electronics companies, things like Nvidia name graphics card architectures after all the different, like Pascal and Maxwell and stuff. I think that's been done for a while.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't be surprised if we see a few more electric car companies that have these sorts of names.
Makes sense, I guess. I like their logo, by the way. Just saying.
The
Faraday Future logo.
The Fs.
It's like the two Fs. Like, I think that's cool.
Yeah, it looks quite cool. So the specifications for the Faraday Future car. This is just for the concept car, right?
Yeah, it's for the concept car. Yes. It's hard to really work out like what parts of that they'll sort of keep for their consumer vehicle. But this is just to show you, I guess, the concept's just there to show you like what their tech what they're capable of, and like kind of things to maybe expect from them in the future.
So they said 1,000 horsepower.
1,000 horsepower, which is huge.
Which is a lot.
It's a racing car.
But when you look
that's
at
like the Bugatti Veyron kind of.
Yeah.
Levels.
When you look at the performance, though, it's 0 to 60 in under 3 seconds. Mm-hmm. They just say under 3 seconds.
Whatever that means.
Which I'm presuming is going to be the higher end in the twos, like 2.8 or something.
Which is similar to the.
Which is almost the ludicrous mode Tesla Model S, the highest, most expensive one, does 2.8 seconds.
It's probably comparable
in acceleration. And a top speed of 200 miles an hour, which I think is quite a lot faster than the Teslas. It does seem slightly odd to me that they have not the acceleration is comparable to the Model S, because it has a bucket load more horsepower. The Faraday Future car. It also only has one person in that concept car. Not the Tesla Model S can take like five people.
5 people.
And then you can add 2 more in the boot
you can.
space. You've got space for 2.
You can actually seat 7
people. So it's a much
people.
bigger vehicle.
Yeah.
And they've got 1,000 horsepower. But I'm presuming the difference is that to get the ludicrous mode Tesla working is not actually related to the horsepower so much. It's the fact that they can deliver so much energy to the wheels very, very quickly. And that's by using some fancy fuses. They had to like replace all the...
Right, okay.
And presumably Faraday Future haven't got that tech or done that tech yet. So its top speed is much higher than the Tesla.
Yeah.
Because it's got the horsepower to get it there.
Yeah.
But they can't deliver as much energy as quickly to the wheels as Tesla can. It's just that they can get to a higher speed.
It's got
no one needs 200 miles an hour anyway.
No.
Anyway, it's a new concept.
There's 4 motors, so there's a motor for each wheel. Which I think the Teslas have 2.
No,
so I don't.
Not all of them. Only the P85, the Ds, where they've got a D on the end of it. The Model X has dual motors in all of them, I think.
Okay.
But only the D model Tesla Model S's have dual motors.
Right. And what
D for dual.
Yeah. Okay.
And then there's a big one in the back and a smaller one in the front or something like that. They have a one for each wheel, do they? That's interesting.
Yeah, they have 4. Yeah, 1 for each wheel. I don't really know exactly. You'd imagine again that would give you more immediate acceleration.
Yeah,
but obviously not.
It's just about how much current you can get through at once. And I guess that's just not. It's just not enough to propel that thing to the.
Yeah.
It's not able to deliver as much energy as Tesla are in such a short space of time.
So
So I was going to go on.
You carry on.
I was going to say the actual consumer model.
Yeah.
Is mysterious at the moment.
Yeah, totally.
But there has been some talk about what it might be. And the guy who, I think he's one of the chief designers, I forget his name.
From Faraday
From Faraday, was questioned about what the consumer model might look like. And he kind of suggested there was some rally driver or something who was working with them that was talking about what it is. And he basically somewhat confirmed what this racing driver was saying. Okay. And he said that it's actually going to be a much bigger like kind of almost like SUV kind like bubble car thing, like a slightly bizarre design. You wouldn't be surprised if it looks like the cockpit but bigger. Just it's actually nothing going to be nothing like this like ridiculous sort of hypercar that they put out.
That doesn't surprise me. I'm imagining their consumer versions to look a lot more like cars.
I think it's gonna. Well, yes,
but maybe
it will.
not. But maybe you're right. Maybe it will look like, if it looks like that cockpit blown up, like sort of
mental.
a really crazy futuristic looking thing.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what I feel about that. I mean,
this is the thing with electric cars is that you've got, because it's a different design to petrol, you can potentially design a very different looking vehicle.
Yeah,
you don't have to do it. But the reason people like Tesla have gone down the more traditional route is just so they don't scare people off.
Yeah. That's what people like, and
they're used to that. You know, you don't want to introduce them to a new technology and a totally new like concept of what a car is immediately.
Yeah.
You want to drip that in over years. You know, Tesla's made lots of obviously innovations in that area with the Falcon wing doors, all these kinds of things. But fundamentally, it just looks like a normal car.
Yeah.
But you could design an electric car in a very, very different way to a petrol car.
Yeah, so
and
maybe
that Faraday Future have just been like they're just jumping headlong into that, and you know, we'll see if it works. I mean, people tend to be wary of weird looking vehicles. They don't tend to buy very, very, very extreme looking vehicles.
Yeah, I do wonder if that's something that will continue, or whether it will gradually change as people get more used to the idea of electric cars, and then you start having companies like Faraday bringing out stuff that looks a bit more radical, and people are like, okay, well now I'm a bit more open to it, you know.
I mean, the things like the the BMWs, the i9.
Yeah,
i8?
i8, I think.
I keep forgetting because it's like I get confused with because I keep getting confused with the Intels.
Yeah,
it's like i3s, i5s, i7s. It's the i8, I think.
I think it's the
i8.
top end one.
It's quite a radical looking car. It looks like a concept car.
It does, yeah.
I mean, it looks badass. I really like that car.
Yeah, they're cool. That's a good example of how to do it, looking different but also badass. Yeah. But I think there are some, apart from the existence of Faraday Future itself, which I think is a good thing.
Yeah.
The car itself, I think, has some sort of interesting things to do with. So for a start, I think people are talking about the actual like chassis of it is going to be the one of their points of manufacturing. This is speculation at the moment, but people reckon this is what they're going to do. Is that they have this like the basic chassis is what they will build all of their vehicles on. So the kind of like the chassis at the bottom, you can add as many battery strings into it as you want.
Oh right.
Well, I say as you want, up to its maximum capacity. So you can like change based on the requirements of the vehicle, whether it's going to be like a saloon car or like an SUV or a sports car or something. You can give it different amounts of batteries and customize that kind of level of it, and then just put the bodywork on top. So I think that's the kind of they're trying to get towards this like mass producing kind of efficient, cheap production kind of line.
Yeah,
way of doing things, which is kind of interesting.
Well, I don't quite know how the Teslas work. I know the Tesla Model S and the Model X are very similar.
They're very similar, yeah. They're not designed totally different from the ground up.
Just obviously the actual chassis is like different.
Yeah, but I got the impression that the idea is what people think is going to happen is that you have a production line pumping out like the chassis basically, and then like, okay, this is going to be an SUV, so we'll whack in this amount of battery power, and then put the bodywork on it. And this one's going to be a sports car, so we'll do something different and put different bodywork on it. That's the kind of idea, I think.
Yeah.
But the other thing, possibly, they've got some quite interesting like tech aspects. So it's like user interface stuff in the cockpit. Call it a cockpit because it sort of is.
It is in the concept.
Yeah, I mean, it looks weird. You sort of sit in this like 45-degree angled chair. And
it's got like a weird seat that.
It's all like morphs around you. And
they said there was an anti-gravity, like a NASA designed anti-gravity seat that like pushes back when you accelerate or something weird.
Yeah, and there's like a helmet that you can wear that delivers like oxygen and water.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
It's mad. I mean, that's not what I mean. That's stupid. Who wants that in a car?
Well,
put on the helmet.
Depends if you're driving it on Mars. I mean, what the fuck? I need some oxygen.
Yeah, that's total gimmick. But
bizarre.
So the whole thing is built around this idea that
maybe it's for pollution.
You mount your smartphone in the steering wheel. I don't know if you saw that.
No, I didn't.
Okay,
that's cool.
So you mount your smartphone in the steering wheel, and it's all connected to your smartphone. So the idea is that this is what they said, and this is all like sort of marketing bullshit, really. But you know how like in the way that you buy a smartphone and its value is as a piece of tech, but then as you use it, you personalize it, and it has an increased value because it's got all your contacts and your life is on
Yeah.
it. So they want to sort of bring that into the car in the sense that like it customizes itself based on settings in your apps, and like it remembers things that you like and the way that you drive and all that kind of stuff.
That's I really like that.
Yeah, I really like that.
And you can probably save that to a cloud and just re-download that profile to new phones you get or whatever.
Yes, exactly. And even if you drive other Faraday cars, you know,
slip your phone
in,
readjust everything to whatever.
Yeah,
I like that a lot.
I think that's really cool, and I think that's something that they'll continue sort of refining, and we'll see it in the consumer cars probably.
Yeah.
The other thing was like an augmented reality heads-up display.
Right.
I guess so. What I'm imagining is like, you know, in like fighter jets, how you have those like targeting systems that are like sort of like rudimentary augmented reality, a bit like that, but like more futuristic and then more depth to them and stuff. But like in their video from CES, concept like video thing they released, it was showing like the car like mapping out the road in front of it, and it puts all these displays on the road, and like I guess you could have like directions and stuff, like maps marked on there, and you know, that kind of stuff. So like a heads up display. It's not on the whole windscreen, I don't think. It's like low down.
Or can you have it in this like thing that delivers oxygen and whatever? Can you have it in there like a fighter pilot?
I guess so.
Probably. That the only thing with that is that it has to be really good to work, like to be useful.
Yeah.
Like if it's like
totally reliable.
Yeah, like if it's anything like Google Glasses where they kind of like this is shit. Get rid of it, then obviously people won't use it.
Yeah, that's true.
If it's like trying to overlay stuff and it's like sketching out occasionally and there's like stuff that goes everywhere, you don't want that when you're driving.
No, you don't.
I guess it's one of those things we need to see, because there is going to be a point where they are good enough, AR technology is good enough that people are happy to use it, and that it is very responsive, etc.
Yeah.
It just needs to be very good to be not a hindrance and for people to make use of it.
Exactly, yeah.
So I guess we'll see. That's cool though. I didn't know that. I really like the idea of that smartphone.
Yeah, I like it as well.
That's really cool.
And just the whole concept of like personalized settings and your car sort of knowing more about you. You know, it has like a personalized aspect and stuff. Even when we move beyond smartphones, which might happen at some point.
What is that?
I don't know actually. What am I talking about? That's not really what I mean. But like you can imagine the concept of that. You don't have to have it relying on like a smartphone.
No.
It could just be like a cloud-based sort of.
Yeah, it just
sort of
downloads
thing.
it on 4G and you log in somehow. But it seems like a great idea because you can have your phone anyway. Well, maybe you don't need to slot your smartphone into the steering wheel, but that would charge it.
Links it.
It just does it like Wi-Fi. Yeah. It just detects the smartphone that's in the driver's seat or whatever through near-field technology, near-field communication, and goes, bing.
I do like the idea of having a smartphone like in the steering wheel, though.
I do as well.
Yeah, just
it could be distracting a bit.
It could be. It encourage you to like read text messages and you know, that kind of shit.
And sometimes you want your smartphone a bit up on the windscreen because you want to use it as like a sat nav. So you possibly don't want it down in the steering wheel because you might have to look down too much to sort of see. I don't know. Is that better?
Easier? Maybe that's better. I can't.
Don't know. You need to have a go.
Yeah. Anyway, so keep an eye on it and see where they go. But
it's a good idea though. Using your smartphone as like a hub of your settings, your whatever's. There hasn't been any info on the range of any of them.
No, they kept quiet on the range, which is.
Well, actually, there's not been a huge. No, it's not that bad actually. The guy did talk briefly about it. He didn't give a number, but he did say it would be comparable to top end models in the market at the moment.
Right, which means Tesla.
Which means about sort of well, it depends on what you take Teslas to mean, but about sort of the 250, 300 range.
Kilometer
range.
Oh, miles.
Kilometer range.
Yeah, I think 250, 300 kilometers.
Yeah. Which is obviously like very decent, and if they stick to that, that's good.
It's better than my parents have an electric car. Well, it's a hybrid, but on fully battery mode, it has like a range of 30 miles on full charge.
A little runner to the shop.
Yeah, but if you turn anything else on in the car, that immediately drops by like 5 miles. So like you turn on like the radio and like suddenly you're looking at 25 miles. Turn on the air conditioning, suddenly now you're looking at 20 miles. Turn on the lights, now you're looking at 15 miles. It just disappears.
You should plug. No, that wouldn't work. I was going to say you should plug in like a little like a wind turbine on the top and just like increase it by 10 miles.
Yeah, or just cover the whole thing in solar panels or something.
Yeah.
And it has like the what do you call it? Is it adaptive braking, where the braking charges the battery?
Yeah, like energy recovery systems.
Yeah, it's got that, but that's a mode you put it in, which feels fucking weird. I drove this thing when I was at home, which was great fun actually.
What does it feel weird?
Because as soon as you take your foot off the accelerator, you immediately feel like a braking system kick in, which is draining power off of the wheels. So it's good when you're going downhill and stuff like that because you can kind of just like sit there and it coasts at a nice speed and it's recharging the battery.
Yeah, almost like coasting downhill in gear.
Yeah, exactly.
Just letting the engine tick over.
Yeah, it's really fun to drive actually. It's just a bit of a tangent.
Yeah, it's fine.
But like, I've never driven an electric car before, and it's totally automatic and it's totally silent. Like, absolutely makes no noise. Like, the first time I pulled it off, I was sat like parallel parked on the side of a street.
Yeah.
Quite a busy street. I was dropping my mum off. She got out. I got into the driving seat and just like sat there and like it's on, but there's no noise and no sound, no movement, no vibration, anything. It's just sat there, and it's just a weird concept that if I touch the accelerator, it's just gonna move. So like you kind of like get ready, look for a gap, signal, and then just go, and it's just like suddenly just like, I mean, it's not a Tesla or anything, but it has like acceleration kicks you in the chest even with that thing.
What is the acceleration?
I'm not sure. I don't know.
It's because a lot of people say it's the electric cars, they feel faster than their actual acceleration anyway, because you get that power 100% instantly. So it really nails you to your seat. That first jolt is really fierce.
And it does. And that was great fun. Because it's automatic as well. Like, I used to be like, I don't really like driving automatic cars, but now I'm like, fuck it, it's great. Just lazy driving. I love it.
Yeah.
Because it's automatic, you don't have to, so you can just like floor it and it just picks speed up so quickly. That's great.
Yeah. So the other one that was announced was no, it wasn't announced, but the other one that was there was a Chevy Bolt. Yeah. Which is kind of like a little kind of runabout 200 mile range.
Yeah, so I think it was quite interesting.
I can't remember. Is it
yeah, so 200 miles I think in the Chevy Bolt, which is about what the Tesla Model S does.
Oh right, that's good then.
Yeah, no, it's good. And it's interesting, the Chevy Bolt. It's interesting for a few things.
Right.
First of all, it's General Motors, one of the biggest 3 car companies.
Yes, yeah.
Basically going full in with a really nice consumer electric car. It's also, in terms of its specs, essentially a Tesla Model 3, which is the one that the consumer Tesla, which they're going to be bringing out in a couple of years. So in some people are saying they've beaten Tesla to the punch here, because the Tesla vehicles you can buy now are just like luxury cars, are really expensive.
Yes.
So the consumer model that everyone's waiting with bated breath for, which is due in maybe a year, maybe 2 years, whatever.
I thought it was this comes out in 2017, doesn't it?
The Chevy Bolt.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's going to be.
So it's only just beating the Tesla.
It's just beating it,
provided they keep sticking.
But that might be super important for winning customers.
Mind share.
Yeah.
Possibly.
In terms of range and all the specs, it looks like it is essentially what Tesla are trying to do with the Model 3. The only real big difference is in infrastructure. So it takes about 9 hours to charge the Chevy Bolt up to full charge, and there are no charging points.
Can it not use Tesla superchargers?
No. Those are Tesla unique things.
That's not great.
No, I mean that's Tesla absolutely, doing that was such a good move for them.
Yeah.
Because now they have laid down infrastructure, especially if you're in North America. You can basically get anywhere on roads in North America without having to worry about Tesla range, because you can just stop at superchargers and get another 200 miles from 20 minutes to charge or whatever. That alone is good enough to outcompete.
Yeah, and Tesla have said they're happy for other companies.
Oh yeah.
To use these superchargers if they fork in for the infrastructure costs.
Okay, that's cool.
Obviously, GM, I guess, haven't agreed to that. I don't know if they had. I think Tesla has had a bit of an argument with a few different car companies who tried to squash them when they were younger, and said they won't work with anyone who was basically an arsehole when they were in a more kind of proto state, and rightly so. So I wonder if GM. I don't know what the relationship is there, but
maybe they do have some agreement. I don't know.
Maybe they will eventually use something like that.
Yeah.
You would want really superchargers to be as common as petrol stations or gas stations if you're in the US. So the more people that invest in them, the better. Really, I don't think they are as common in North America as petrol stations now.
Oh no, probably not. No, but I think I've seen maps of estimating range coverage of North America with using Tesla superchargers, and it's the whole thing is just covered, apart from fucking middle of Canada where nobody ever goes.
Yeah,
I'm talking about roads, driving roads.
So the other two things I was gonna talk about then in relation to the Bolt is, what do you reckon if it's competing with the Tesla? Do you think It doesn't look as nice as a Model S because the Model S is like a luxury car.
Yeah.
And is kind of styled to be a luxury car.
Yeah.
But do you think the Bolt looks nice?
No.
Is it attractive to consumers, or is it kind of a bit of a? I mean, it's not as bad as a G Wiz, which is one of the ugliest things I've ever seen. It looks like a car that's been inbred, but the Leaf or something, it looks more like that sort of.
It does.
It looks like just a kind of average.
It's not attractive
car.
to me. I think it's ugly as shit. But I can see, I can see like families and stuff. I think people will like it. Yeah. I mean, it looks just a bit like a general like large like sort of family hatchback type thing.
Yeah.
A bit more futuristic looking. It's got like the sort of Tesla Model X like curved extended windscreen that goes up over the roof, which is cool.
Yeah.
And the interior looks like pretty comfortable and futuristic and stuff.
Right.
I think.
Does it have many?
I can see people liking it.
Do things like?
I don't think it's going to be thought of as like objectively ugly and horrible.
No.
I just think it's not that great.
It's a bit boring.
Yeah.
What about technology that Tesla's famous for? Things like autopilot, these kinds of things.
I don't actually know that much about what the Chevy Bolt in terms of like,
or just all the Chevrolet kind of fleet would be potentially integrating that type of thing, even if they're not electric. Presumably, I haven't heard much about it. I know Tesla are like driving super hard in that direction.
Yeah.
So it may be that the Tesla can compete with it in the terms that it's more like gadgets laden, has more. It's basically a more futuristic car. I do wonder as well how the difference in driving, how they both feel to drive and stuff.
Yeah.
I don't think Chevrolet cars are notoriously great.
No.
To drive around like corners and stuff.
And Teslas, I mean, the ones that are available now, Model S, Model X, have been like consistently reviewed as being like some of the best driving experience you can have.
Really, around corners?
Yeah.
Is that true?
Model S for sure. I don't know about the Model X.
No.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, and then there was one more electric car I saw as well.
Oh yeah.
Which isn't really a car. It's
that like little buggy thing.
The Acrimoto, something like that.
Acrimoto, yeah.
It's basically like a 3-wheeled kind of motorcycle. And they actually don't have a steering wheel in it anymore. They have like handlebars.
Oh, okay, that's weird.
But it's quite cool in that it's quite cheap. It's $12,000. Which is, if you're going to save a lot on taxes and fuel for the lifetime of the vehicle, and they want it to feel like a gap in between motorcycles and cars.
Is that a gap that actually exists?
Well, maybe. I think people have tried to fill that gap a few times, and
stuff like smart cars like are very popular for like city run around vehicles. Yeah. So maybe there is a market for it in like busy cities.
If you think of things like in places like India and stuff, like tuk-tuks.
Yeah.
They're kind of like an in-between thing. They haven't really taken off in the Western world particularly.
They're massive in like Central and South America as well.
In places
thousands of them,
like China, where the air pollution is like awful. I've been to China and into some pretty polluted places.
And it's getting worse all
the time.
Like
way off the tourist trail, and it's pretty awful. The point where your eyes are stinging and coughing. I know some people who went on the trip that I went to when I was out in Hong Kong. They basically went to a place that they didn't go to the year after because a day in, the lecturer couldn't speak anymore because he had breathed in so much of this stuff. Whatever was in the air at this particular processing plant around the area, literally couldn't talk anymore. They just had to leave and go somewhere else. So air pollution, and it's becoming like more of a thing that China's taking seriously as well. So that type of thing may be great in those type of countries. Cheaper. I think it runs for about 70 miles or kilometers, and up to 135, I think.
For like city run around, you can imagine like replacing all the like little tuk-tuk sort of taxi traffic in places like cities in China or India or whatever with those things.
With something like that
that kind of size and scale and cost, and they're all electric. That'd be awesome.
They do a huge amount for places like Delhi and these very heavily polluted industrial areas.
Especially if you can make them autonomous.
That'd be awesome. I feel like that's some way away from some of these cities. Do you think
for sure.
Do you think there's a market for that sort of thing in the Western world? Not autonomous vehicles.
For those Acrimoto things. Less so. Although having said that, you go to like especially like dense, quite some of the old like European cities like Barcelona, somewhere like that, where the inner city is all like really old streets, really narrow streets. You do feel a lot of people running around in like tuk-tuk type things and like smart cars and that sort of thing. in the inner city of.
Yeah,
like,
that's true.
I'm thinking of Barcelona specifically because I went there recently, and I know it's in my mind. But there's other examples of that.
You don't really see it here in the US that much.
No,
do
not
you?
so much. Not so much. No. But I can see like maybe somewhere in Italy and France and Spain, like these old cities, inner cities where you have like narrow streets and stuff.
Yes.
Like parking spaces premium and it's just a bit kind of chaotic driving around in cars. Maybe there is a market for that kind of thing. So
yeah, certainly.
It's less dangerous than a motorbike. Probably.
Well, I mean, borderline. I think they were talking about whether you have to wear a helmet with it.
Oh shit! Okay.
And they said in X number of states you didn't have to, and maybe some you might.
Right.
But the fact, I mean, it's open-sided. Yeah. So if you get hit by a car, you're basically.
Yeah. But it's probably less. It's
more stable than a motorbike.
Stabler, so you won't come off it so easily.
Probably, yeah. It's 3-wheeled, so it's going to be.
Okay. Oh, really? Okay. I didn't know that. I thought it was 4. I haven't seen pictures of it.
Yeah,
so.
I think it's 2 at the front, 1 at the back. No. Sort of like a trike.
Fair.
But yeah, I can see that taking off in some places. Maybe not in the UK and the US yet.
Yeah.
The only other thing I saw electric car related was the that i8 adaptation thing. So they basically got the BMW i8, and they had like a fancy new kind of gesture controlled system for the like screen in the middle, where you kind of like you're driving, you have your hands on the wheel or just above the wheel, so you can like grab it and to like switch things instead of like going away from the wheel and pressing,
looking for a
like
button
down
to find it. Yeah,
you just kind of flick left to right like that, making gestures. I mean, it might be one of those things like a Kinect where it's just shit.
Yeah. Plus, if you're like me and you gesture a lot when you talk, if you've got a passenger in the car and you're just like talking and like. And then you end up like
gesticulating,
changing the like sat nav and changing like music and fuck.
I don't know if you like flick a switch and then kind of I don't know, but it looked quite cool. So I suppose the thing that most related to these electric cars then, as well, which I think is going to be really important, is that Nvidia stuff they announced. So this is for autonomous cars. This is for self-driving cars. Which is the direction that everything's going. Which isn't necessarily purely electric cars, but.
No.
By the time... I was going to actually ask you before... Well, actually, we'll talk about that later. So, yeah, it's not purely for electric cars. It's potentially could be used on petrol cars.
Yes, of course.
Hybrid cars.
Yeah.
But by the time autonomous cars are a big thing, most cars are probably going to be electric. Or a lot of them are.
Yeah. It seems like the kind of the revolution that's going on at the moment with autonomous cars is just synonymous with the electric car revolution. I guess because a lot of the companies building electric cars are looking in that direction because they know that's where the future's going. So they're kind of building that in, like Tesla and actually the Faraday Future car as well. They said that it's autonomous, and they didn't really give much away about that.
So just before we move off on electric cars and go and talk about the Nvidia thing.
Yeah.
How long do you think you've had a bet recently with your mate?
Oh God,
which is an embarrassment. but
I don't know. It's not that much of an embarrassment.
No, it was the illegal thing that was the embarrassment.
Yeah. I mean, I reckon that is a thing that will happen.
Yeah.
But just not in 15 years.
No. But I mean, how long do you think it will be until 50% of all new cars sold are electric?
50% of all new cars. That's hard. That's a hard thing to answer. Maybe.
What do I reckon? I reckon
maybe 10 to 15 years.
Yeah. Maybe less than 10.
Maybe less than 10. It could be less than 10. There might be an explosion. But I mean, there are a lot. Do you mean in the world? Because
not sure why.
Like
in Europe. Okay, let's say UK and US.
UK and
so
US.
Europe and
10,
US.
10 years. 10 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the economics of them make too much sense.
Yeah.
If you have a relatively affordable electric car to start with, and they cost so little to run, I mean, tax breaks will go away for them. People will just buy them because they just make sense to invest in.
Yeah.
And there's many other benefits and things.
I think it's just definitely cool seeing like these companies having their own little ideas that pop up, and you know, we'll see more. Hopefully, see more and more of these types of companies coming out.
Cars are becoming smart cars.
Cars are becoming like bits of tech, which is why they're at CES.
Exactly, where they've not been in previous years, really.
No.
I mean, there's been the odd one, but it's really starting to be like a thing that's at CES. It's like one of the categories of consumer electronics that is at CES is cars, which is
Cool.
I'm totally into
I'm
that.
down with that. That's good. That's good shit.
So on that note,
Yes.
let's move on to Nvidia.
Yes.
So Nvidia announced their autonomous driving kind of chip it's kind of like a box, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a computer essentially.
Yeah.
It's a hench piece of machinery actually.
Yeah. It's not that big, is it?
No, sorry, I don't mean in size. I mean in power.
Yeah.
It's an absolute beast.
Yeah, it's got a couple of GPUs on it, hasn't it? Two of the new Nvidia Pascal GPUs.
It does. Yeah.
So that though they haven't actually spoken about what goes into Pascal yet, which is their kind of new architecture that's coming after the current architecture they have. Word is though it's going to be quite a big jump
Nice.
from the previous ones, which is why I'm waiting to buy it for the Oculus, because I also need a new graphics card for that. So that's gonna a lot of people are coding like neural networks and AI self-learning systems for these autonomous cars on GPUs now, and so having two GPUs integrated into your car is a good idea, because previously they've just been like mobile chips almost. I think a lot of them are like Nvidia, like Tegra chips, which you find in Nvidia phones. I think the Teslas possibly have them.
Right.
And you need a lot more computational power potentially to do autonomous driving. So that's really cool to see.
Yeah.
Them taking it as seriously as they're taking like designing mobile chips, because autonomous vehicles.
I mean that stuff is the future. It's coming fast as well. And this thing it involves like deep learning as well, which is really cool.
Yeah.
I mean it means it's going to gradually or rapidly just build up a better and better picture of the environment and stuff. So complex environments like busy cities and things like that. It will begin to learn more and more and more about how to react to certain situations and kind of begin to build up like a database of like scenarios.
Like the autopilot Teslas are doing at the moment.
Yeah,
they're building up high resolution maps, getting tons of data back, and centralizing it so that they can then make cars autonomous later. And these software algorithms that allow them to read streets better and things are all going to feed back into adding to high resolution maps, how to deal with very specific situations until it's better than a human driver is the idea, obviously. And it's going to be quite. I wonder how expensive it will be to add to a car.
Yeah, I mean, you probably imagine that the next generation of like say the Tesla Model 3s or something will probably come with something like this. Yeah. In them anyway.
And that, to be honest, actually thinking about it, I mean, if it's two high-end Nvidia GPUs, if it is high-end ones, maybe it won't be. It will be fairly high-end. You could be talking. It might cost, £1,500 to put in or something, which isn't much in the overall cost of like a £20,000-30,000 car. Yeah, not a huge increase. No. So yeah, you're right. So if Tesla said that they're going to be integrating these,
no, I don't know. I'm just
they'll
literally
just come with it.
Talking off the top of my head, speculating.
Yes, yeah.
The next generation of vehicles that have a goal of being autonomous, like the Tesla Model 3, for example, might come with something like this. Yeah. If not actually this thing itself. Yeah. As standard. Yeah.
And this is it's like I was thinking about the hardware. It's liquid cooled, I think.
It is liquid cooled.
It's not just GPUs. It's got like 12 CPUs.
12 CPUs.
12 CPU cores.
Yeah.
Which is interesting. I don't quite know what. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. It's just can do a lot of processing.
Yeah.
Which is what you need. Build up very high resolution, very rapidly updating.
And it's also the speed in which you can crunch potentially a lot of visual information coming in. Exactly. You've got to make decisions like split second decisions. So a car can't be like sort of shutting down, loading, kind of having a Windows style crash whilst it's deciding whether to run a kid over or not. Like it's got to decide to move and dodge it or whatever.
Or just accelerate, or just
Yeah, whatever. I mean, it might turn like sort of genocidal.
If in doubt, accelerate.
I think if in doubt, brake would probably be there.
Yeah, probably.
So that's cool to see. I'm glad. The more we see of these, because that's part of the like trend towards more deep learning, more AI stuff. That's at almost all GPU conferences now. There's like huge sessions on deep learning, on AI, on neural networks and things, and they're now becoming part of this. By feeding themselves into cars, they're feeding themselves into transport, into citywide smart cities.
You're going to start seeing integrate these systems like once they're really common, they going to start being centralized or like cloud based and like a brain, like an AI controlling citywide transport, or at least sort of all communicating and stuff like that to like optimize traffic flow and all that kind of thing in real time. And that's when you start seeing like emergent intelligence properties, and you never know, you're getting close to that singularity maybe. I don't know.
There's obviously that aspect of, in 30, 40, 50 years, when no car drives itself, where the city basically runs on its own, that if you get like a solar flare that wipes everything out, suddenly no one can do anything. There's always this fear with technology. It's becoming too reliant on it can potentially be a bad thing. But then you have
simultaneously
to
develop ways of mitigating that risk.
You have to engineer out the risks involved,
which is what will have to happen.
But there's always
always lags behind though.
It does, exactly.
People like, for example, like the risk from like asteroid impacts seems so vanishingly small, but it is so like catastrophic. If it did happen, it could be so catastrophic that. But people aren't really that worried in their day-to-day lives about like, oh yeah, we should be spending government money on trying to spot and catch asteroids, because that's a waste of money. But actually it's not, because if one hit the Earth, it could be like the worst thing that's ever happened.
This is the problem with it, is that people tend to be, or programs tend to be run based on reactive measures rather than preventative measures. So an over-reliance on technology might sneak up. People kind of haven't quite realised how devastating things would be if this happened, and haven't paid out money to engineer backups until there's a big disaster. Hopefully that disaster is big enough that it shakes us into do something, but doesn't like ruin everything. And like a city loses it and they lose loads of money for a year or something, and everything just goes tits up, but not tons of people dying or anything like that. Sure. Because if you've got like food delivery systems that are all automated, like you potentially have a humanitarian disaster on your hands very quickly. You have a huge
and stuff like intercity shipping, like trucks delivering goods back and forth between cities probably all be automated. And
if farms are automated, like they're harvesting themselves and all this sort of stuff.
Man, it could be absolutely terrible, disaster kind of thing, humanitarian crisis. If like a solar flare wiped out. So
got to be careful.
Got to be careful, and we probably won't be. At least we probably won't be at the same rate as our technology is expanding. We'll have the preventative measures coming in probably a bit too late, and just keeping our fingers crossed that something bad doesn't happen. Well, I think that's about all I was really wanted to talk about in CES. I mean, there's lots of other little bits, tons of stuff,
but those are the bits that I think stuck out to me.
The impactful stuff.
Cool.
Awesome.
So I guess that's the end of the main segment. So I guess it's time for the final segment.
Nutters of the week.
Nutters of the week. So I've got my story this week.
Ooh,
it's something that's been around for a little while. But I found it and I thought it was rather delightful.
Right.
It's mainly funny and interesting because it's just totally confusing.
Right.
So it's this guy who runs this website called TimeCube, and it's like his theory, of everything. And it's a personal website. TimeCube is a personal website operated by self-proclaimed wisest man on earth.
Oh, nice.
Otis Eugene Jean Ray. Okay.
Nice.
And he's been operating since 1997.
That name's quite familiar, actually.
Yeah, I mean, maybe you might have heard of it. I'm not sure.
I can't. TimeCube doesn't really ring a bell.
No. So I'm going to try and explain this, but what I'm mostly not really going to... I'm not going to be able to explain it because it doesn't make any fucking sense.
Okay.
But I am going to just read out some stuff from the website.
Bring it on.
Because it's good stuff.
Yeah.
So the idea is that he purports that to show how each day is actually really 4 separate days. Okay?
What?
Sun up, midday, sundown, and midnight.
Right.
Formerly morning, afternoon, late evening, and evening, which all occur simultaneously.
Right.
Yeah, I don't really know.
What?
Right. Here's some stuff.
So right now it's simultaneously midnight late afternoon,
Yeah.
and morning and whatever.
Yeah, you
all at the
better
same
believe
time.
it.
Okay,
And
right, yeah, I'm with you.
here's some good stuff. It's an 8,000 word explanation for what this is.
Fucking hell.
Okay, and it's
Yeah.
like some sort of worldview that incorporates that all science to talk to everyone is a lie, and that religions are lies, and all this sort of stuff. And he's got the answer.
This is the pure.
you know.
This is the
Yeah.
pure truth.
Life. This is a quote. Life is pulsating opposite mirror pairs. Written that badly. Death is oneness of Godism.
Oh man.
It is the absolute verifiable truth and proven fact that your belly button signature ties to Vivid Paris Mama. It doesn't even make sense. I don't know what that
belly
is.
button signature?
I don't know. I don't know.
What? Like, is that like a unique thing, like a fingerprint that everyone has?
Yeah, and it ties to the Vivid Paris Mama.
Oh, the Vivid Paris. That's something to do with reproduction. Like,
Yeah.
Oh, like, shit. What does that mean? Is that something to do with live young versus? Yes, Vivid Paris is live young.
Yes. Okay.
What is he on about?
I have no idea.
It's just gobbledygook. It's just total nonsense.
Yeah.
Yeah. Carry on.
It's just. So his advice is to seek awesome lectures. My wisdom debunks gods of all religions and academia. There's 8,000 words on this stuff.
It debunks gods of academia. I like it.
Yeah. I mean, it's you should go to the website because it's 8,000 words of just absolute like baffling drivel.
I like it.
And he's got.
So what's the core of the theory? Is it just that the time is like a cube or something? Somehow,
Yeah.
like with these 4 parts of the day happening simultaneously, is somehow a...
Yeah, he's got a diagram that time.
Oh, amazing!
cube.
Oh, amazing!
But
I want to understand this.
and he's also got the
Maybe
got the .com www.timecube.com, which presumably is quite a like valuable domain.
Yeah,
You'd think.
I reckon he
Oh,
won't
gee,
sell,
there's some stuff on it that's a bit like slightly worrying. Your dirty lying teachers use only the midnight to midnight one day, ignoring 3 other days. Time not foul, already wrong brackets. Bible time doesn't make sense.
What?
Lie that corrupts earth. You educated stupid fools.
I like it's just this thing that, like
It's just rambling gibberish.
it's this like aspect that you
Oh,
find
this is
in a lot of these weird like nutty people. Is this kind of mistrust of mainstream education. I wonder why that is. People always have like this kind of mistrust of it.
This page you see cannot exist without its anti-side existence as plus 0 minus antipodes. Add plus 0 minus as 1 equal nothing. Bollocks.
It's just absolute rubbish. Some of those quotes you
8,000 words though.
Oh Christ! I mean,
I'm
this
trying
guy's
to find
just
a
like
diagram.
babbling off of his
Look,
top
look,
of his
look,
head.
look.
Oh, this is a diagram of the time cube. Oh,
It says, honour the 4 days or you should die. We'll stick an annotated link up.
Oh yeah,
Yes.
this is good. You have to scroll down quite a lot to get to this diagram, but it's
Yeah.
very informative.
Apparently he's a doctor.
Dr. Jean Ray
I don't
is
know
the
who's
greatest
given him-
philosopher and is the greatest mathematician.
That's it.
That's it. That's it. Of all time, cubic harmonics.
Yeah,
Some of
that's
those-
his thing.
Some of those quotes you were reading out at the start sounded literally like the that Deepak Chopra random quote generator that you can just press like
That's awesome.
like receive more wisdom and it just makes like a random babble of nonsense.
Yeah.
It literally just sounded like that. They
Yeah.
can pull off of that.
Yeah.
That is truly,
Look how long it is.
truly fabulous.
Look how long it is.
Oh my god. Oh dear. Cubic simultaneous 4-day rotation of Earth. It will change all math, science, and societies from the beginning of human existence. You have to be evil to ignore this math. Shit. Don't want to be evil.
It's very good. It's very good. It straddles all sorts of different like levels of conspiracy theory.
I love it.
And just craziness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was good.
Some
That was
good-
high
There's
quality.
some good stuff to check out around the internet nowadays. Right, that's the end of the show.
Yep, that's it. So next week, what are we doing next week? Oh,
We are going to be talking about propulsion, space propulsion.
the future of space propulsion.
Yeah,
Because there's some weird and wonderful and cool stuff that's starting to spring up.
yeah.
So how are we going to travel great distances in great speed and all
Yeah.
that kind of stuff?
What
and,
types of things are on potentially coming in the future?
Yeah, near future, far future, whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, it's going to be badass. So thank you very much for listening.
Yeah.
As ever.
So yeah, if you want to get in touch with us, comments or email us offworldempire@gmail.com. And also, if you like what you see and you want to see more, just subscribe. Cheers.
Thank you very much.